he said, Your Majesty, looking toward the entrance as though the heir may overhear. The records verify a story that describes the beast our visitors brought up. Creature. Yes, the unbound one, she repeated. Something was told to have emerged from the last battle of the gods. Not physical, not spiritual, but something within and between. It has the power to alter reality, transform ideas into physical objects, and reverse existence with a little bit. The gods were so terrified of it that they sent it with its power bound in flesh. Roaming the cosmos while suffering from a memory curse, the queen scowled. A myth. No such power might be sustained, Majesty, indeed. However, if the stories contain even a rumor of truth, and if our faithful Alaric has anything to do with it, we are harboring the most dangerous person when he hesitated and lowered his voice even further, existing in the creation. The window where the first rays of the sun fell on the palace courtyard caught the queen's attention. Who is in danger, Lord Hendren? The aliens who threatened to exterminate us, or Hendren bowed rigidly. To me, still, Majesty, I would counsel prudence. When Seraphine remained at her desk after he departed, her fingers following the crest carved into her ring, the idea gave her a nod. Numerous times she had entrusted all Alaric with her life. He had rescued her from assassins, protected her during conflicts, and remained silent when others lied. Yet he had never discussed his history. Unable to sleep that night, she visited the palace's basement had a hall of records with glowing crystalline codices containing ancient knowledge. The hallway was large and silent. It was only illuminated by the blue luminous veins that ran through the walls. She called up the records and Ubound one murmured, The crystals came to life, displaying pictures and text fragments scattered over the room. A hand melting entire stars, a maelstrom of stars suddenly with emotion. A shadowed figure with a concealed face and flaming eyes similar to twin suns. It was a terrifyingly familiar description. Unbound, it was the destroyer and the savior. The voice of the record was chilly and mechanical. It imprisoned itself in mortal form, bound by regret, leaving only the glove's mark. Seraphine froze the glove's mark. The sound of footsteps resounded behind her, her heart pounding. She turned abruptly. All of it was Alaric. He was standing at the entrance, his face painted in ghostly light by the subtle lighting of the crystals. I hoped you wouldn't come here. Silently, he said. She turned to face him. Then you know what I've seen. He replied, I don't fear you, she said. Nodding enough to make you fear me, however. I'd be afraid of what you're concealing. He moved closer, his eyes mournful rather than a threat. If I told you the truth, Your Majesty, you wouldn't regard me as your defense, but as the culmination of all that you defend, then let me make that decision. Both were silent for a long time, as though the cosmos were leaning in to listen. The air between them shimmered softly. Alaric then raised his gloved hand, palm out. There were ripples in the air, little motes of light twisted space itself and whirled around his fingertips before disappearing. I wear this for that reason, he added quietly. I unmake what I touch without it. I am not intended to be there, but here I am. The queen gasped with surprise. Why defend me so? Why serve? He gave a small smile. As you are the first ruler I have ever encountered, who prefers kindness over authority. Even monsters, I guess, have a desire to eat. Excellent before the end. The hall was laden with fragile silence. Then without, the floor trembled forcefully. Warning. On the ceiling, dust showered down. From a great distance. The alarms in the palace sounded. Alaric jerked his head up their rear. Seraphine's gaze grew wide. The lords of Orion? He gave a sad nod. They will not give up until they have buried your realm in the ashes of their terror after realizing who I am, the queen said. Then they'll find Arender still standing when their ashes settle. Alaric gazed straight, her voice determined. He bowed slowly after staring at her with an enigmatic expression. You really are amazing, Your Majesty. And she noticed something nearly human in his eyes for the first time. Not strength, nor divinity, but a silent grief that would last forever. As the alarms, the queen realized one thing with icy certainty as the man sobbed through the palace and the sky outside burnt red. If he ever lost control, the one who had saved her might also be the one to wipe out the cosmos. Alaric turned. Then let's make sure that doesn't happen, he whispered, flexing his gloved fingers once toward the quivering ceiling. Occur tonight. The night sky above Arinda pulsed instead of being pitch black. As extraterrestrial dreadnoughts swooped through the sky, their motors roaring like demons, the Orion was crimson and silver. Fleet had come back bigger, noisier, and more vindictive, and the palace shuddered with each the city's citizens gathered when there was a sonic boom. Windows rattling and towers swaying. The queen, her pulse thumping, gazed from her balcony as people in the streets looked up in fear, not from dread, but from the weight of decisions that could determine her world's destiny. She looked to Alaric, who was standing next to her. Her, completely composed, as if an encroaching armada were just a bothersome downpour. "Tell me they are not available to assist you," she remarked. "I could tell you that," Alaric answered. His tone dry, but you'd know I'd be lying. She gave him a fierce look. The light of her face is painted in various shades of crimson by extraterrestrial ships. "What do they want? Me. And whatever part of reality I'm attached to," he said simply. A voice boomed, projected from the lead ship across the sky. "Queen Seraphine of Arendar, bring us the creature known as All Alaric, or your city will burn. You've got an hour." Lord Vizar's voice could be heard, and even the stars seemed to retreat. The queen turned to Alaric and fixed her crown. "If I give you over, they go." He gave her a stern look. "If you give me to them, they'll make sure I'm not lurking within your planet by disassembling it piece by piece." He looked at her face as the queen inhaled and steadied herself. Then they got nothing. His face was unreadable for a long time. "You're opposing an empire to your majesty. Defend a myth. I'm keeping myself safe," she replied. The Alaric's mouth curled into a faint, hesitant, "Rest is just politics. I'm in the palace war chamber." The grin reads, "Then may the gods forgive us both." Ministers were in disarray, and maps fluttered across the room as the fleet approaches. Each advisor has a different, equally bleak plan. Lord Hendren slammed his fist was on the table. "Majesty, we can't battle them. Their ships may destroy us in a matter of seconds. Give them." The Seraphine's eyes sparkled. "He is not a creature. He is a monster. Save Erdr," Hendren whispered. "A man who can bend the air and silence armies." Alaric leaned against the wall with his arms folded, mistaking loyalty for knowledge, observing the dispute. "If I may," he continued, "this conversation would be simpler." Hendren snapped, "If I weren't in the room, then go and give yourself up before your existence destroys us all." Alaric calmly looked at you first. "Enough," Queen ordered. The room went quiet, and she moved forward. "Putting her hands on the table, Majesty," Hendon started. "But we shall bargain, not give up," she interrupted him with a sneer. Someone retrieved the diplomatic channel, and the palace shields were prepared. "If the Orion Lords will speak to me personally if they wish to." A few moments later, the air glistened, and Lord Vizier's hideous above the table. His visage materialized as a holographic projection, with 6 eyes, burned with rage. "You shield a creature who shouldn't be there." "Queen Seraphine, hand him over. I am willing to discuss terms," she said evenly. Referring to Lord Vizar, "Terms, there are no words. Only survival," he said, baring rows of sharp teeth. Before she could respond, Alaric said, "You have what belongs to us." "Belongs." "I don't remember signing any contracts." Vizar looked at him abruptly. "You believe that this is merely an unbound one. When you broke your chains, you destroyed half of our empire." The void still Alaric's brows furrowed as he recalled your touch. "You're still talking, though. I must have missed a few planets." The hologram blazed and disappeared. The queen yelled angrily, "That wasn't helpful," all Alaric said, glancing at him. "Diplomacy is not my forte," he said. The palace trembled once more. The alien fleet outside started launching warning blasts into the higher atmosphere. The shields flickered beneath the pressure, and the air burnt with a hushed, concerned voice. The queen turned to Alaric and asked, "Is there any way you can—" He paused. "Maybe, but it involves stopping them without destroying everything." She gazed at him as he took off more of this glove. How much more? One finger, She didn't like the sound, so she held up his hand and whispered, "It'll hurt them mostly." He stepped out onto the balcony once more, but she nodded. "Do it." The alien fleet towered above, gigantic and ruthless, while the metropolis spread below like a sea of trembling light. Alaric. The air shimmered as he flexed his gloved hand and carefully peeled back the fabric. Covering his index finger itself appeared to distort. The resulting sound was not sound at all. As though the universe took a deep breath, the lead battleship flickered, twisted, and finally disappeared in eerie silence as a ripple of white light appeared in the sky, not burned, not exploded, but vanished.